What's your worth? It's a question that anyone who has ever worked a day in their life asks. But for recent college grads, the topic of salary negotiation is unnerving and intimidating. Here to help us navigate the dreaded conversation is Damali Peterman, author and conflict resolution expert and founder of Breakthrough ADR. Glad to have you back.
It's so wonderful to see you, and congrats, graduates.
Yes, congrats to all the graduates out there who now are being released into the cruel and harsh world that awaits them. Let's talk a bit about sort of the climate in today's job market, because there's a bit of a contradiction there. It's kind of an interesting market as we embark on it in 2025.
It's so true. So the job market may look strong on the surface, but beneath it lies this disconnect that's creating confusion for both employers and job seekers. And of course, that impacts our graduates. So while unemployment is low, job seekers are finding it harder to land positions. And that's that kind of contradiction that we're talking about. So if we unpack it a little bit, it feels, and you used the word cold earlier, this cold world, it's called the big freeze right now. That's what economists are calling it, right? Because hiring has slowed down to post-Great Recession levels, and that causes a lot of frustration and uncertainty.
And you say for grads to sort of think outside of the box and to do things a little bit differently. How long is it taking on average for a graduate to land a position once they've gone through all of their various interviews?
Well, what I'm seeing in the research is that it's taking anywhere between, well, it's taking up to, it could take up to 10.4 weeks. That's the median job search duration right now. And I have to tell you that that's the highest that it's been since the pandemic. And this tends to lead to a cycle of rejection that can erode confidence and cause tension and family and peer dynamics. So it's something that we have to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, most definitely. So how would you recommend for those to sort of, I guess, keep their wits about them during the process, to understand that it is a process? Because you were saying it can create conflict, not only with maybe if you're holding down a job, if you get frustrated in that job and with your colleagues, but also at home. So talk a little bit about some of the emotional impacts that this process
Right.
brings.
So what happens is all of these things that we're talking about can fuel anxiety, self-doubt, and frustration. And this is common, especially when there's some uncertainty about what's happening with respect to a really important aspect of our lives. Like, how will we take care of ourselves? How will we make a living? How will we make money? These kind of come down to those basic needs, right, that we hear about in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so those are the emotions behind it. But there is hope. I don't want it to sound like despair. There is hope. And part of what I want to encourage people to do is to reframe this conflict as an opportunity.
Yeah. It's changing the mindset, isn't it?
You have to change your mindset because now is the time to sort of recalibrate your strategy. And I have some ideas and some tips as to how we can do that.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into those, and let's do that in just a moment. But one thing that I thought was very interesting, and it's something that I can relate to, when I was coming up into my career, transience was it was commonplace. You were expected to leave one place to go to another, not stay very long to go to another. I mean, that's kind of the nature of journalism, but really that was the story in pretty much every other industry. So there's a shift there. People are staying
Yes.
more permanent in one place these days.
That's 100% true. So job mobility, this transience has decreased and people are staying put, and they're staying put for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of, there's this economic uncertainty, there are budget cuts, employers are pulling back and becoming more conservative. There's this conflict between leadership at companies and recruiters. And so everyone's trying to figure out what their growth strategies are and how to navigate an uncertain market. And that has impacted this transience that we're used to seeing. This what happens is that there are more internal conflicts around promotions, right? So if you stay, what happens? Like, what does your career path look like? So these internal conflicts not only cover promotions, but also pay raises and job security. And of course, if no one goes anywhere, they don't there are no openings for new people to come in. So it's this cycle that we're seeing happen right now.
And I think a lot of people are less willing to take the gamble and uprooting themselves only to find that the new job that they take in another city, in another state, maybe has the longevity of a couple of years before they're going to have to start putting their resumes back out there again. But you do touch on salary and making it a viable job search. So what I'd like to do is take a break here, and when we come back, I want to hear about some of those tips and ways that people can change their mindset and go for the salary that they think they deserve. So we're going to do that in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We've been talking with Damali Peterman, author and conflict resolution expert and founder of Breakthrough ADR. So we were just talking about the job climate out there, which is very interesting, a kind of a contradiction you were saying. We're seeing low unemployment, but a slow hiring rate. So that leaves a lot of recent grads wondering, well, A, how am I going to find a job, the job that I want? But also, how do I ask for what I think I deserve? So what is sort of out of the gate your first tips to those recent grads?
My first tip is to just embrace the power of patience. And that feels like such a strange thing to say, right? You just finished, 2, 3, 4, perhaps more years of school, of college, what have you, and you're like ready to go out of the gates and just find that perfect job. But you have to be patient, especially in this market. And so I want you to sort of reframe uncertainty as preparation. And what I mean by that is instead of feeling sidelined, view the slower market as a chance to really build your skills, refine your pitch, and bolster your network. And you can do that if you treat each application as a negotiation. That's my favorite word.
Yeah.
So tailor your approach, ask for feedback, and there will be some rejections. Let's just normalize that. Use those rejections as intel for your next move.
And what do you recommend? People just sending their applications, sending their resumes kind of out of the blue, going through one of these platforms like LinkedIn. What has proven to be maybe a better method to get seen when you're one of hundreds of other resumes?
Oh, I love this question. First of all, wherever you find a job application, apply. So whether it's online, whether you see a posting, the classifieds, what have you. I do think that you have to think beyond the job post and navigate the hidden market. And that sounds so like, what is the hidden market, right? Yeah. Well, because there are fewer posted roles, the hidden job market becomes a really key battleground. So you want to seek informational interviews and connect with alumni, which is very important. You're coming out of college, there will be alumni that you have access to, and try to uncover unlisted opportunities. It's also important to just put yourself out there and ask someone else that you know. It doesn't have to be an alumni. Do you know of anyone hiring X, right? What is it that you are looking to find? What area are you looking to find employment in? And then I want you to approach those conversations like a mediator. So listen actively, ask open-ended questions, and really try to position yourself as a problem solver. And when I say a problem solver, I'm saying how you can solve, how your skills can help you solve a problem for a potential employer.
So you don't have to have a decade of work experience under your belt in order to network. So networking is huge.
Networking is so huge, and I often get this question like, oh, well, I'm just fresh out of school. I don't feel like I have enough experience. But I think that especially in these uncertain times, companies need fresh ideas. So what you can do is highlight how your adaptability and new perspectives can solve emerging challenges.
And what about for the recent grads that may have to pivot? Because even during those 4 years of getting your degree, the industry that you hope to land in changes. I can say with certainty that happened in journalism. So by the time I graduated, what I thought I was going to be, I never was. So keep an open mind, I guess.
Keep an open mind. The power of the pivot is so key. You have to always refine your approach. And I don't want people to see it as something that's challenging. We evolve every day, right? So the person you are today is not the same person you were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And so just think about all the things that you've overcome. Even the graduates, people who are graduating now, you may have started school or college when the pandemic started, after the pandemic was kind of waning. And so all of these things were things that you couldn't have anticipated when you decided, you know what, I think I want to major in X. And so I think the power of the pivot is something that's not just important for this particular moment in time, but going forward, how you adapt is going to be important for this, and it's going to be important and also very key in having a growth mindset.
We have just a couple of seconds left here. I have to ask you your opinion on this. I hate it every time I'm asked. What is your 5-year plan? What's the best way to answer that question?
The 5-year plan is so interesting, right? Because so many things can change in 5 years. And so I always say have a 5-year plan, but then have a backup plan A and plan B, right?
Okay.
So for me, when I was in college, I was an English major. I wanted to write books, I wanted to write greeting cards. And then I had also a plan B and a plan C, right? I also went to law school. I was a mediator. There were all these things that I was doing. And I want people to also know that these days, there isn't just one path to that goal, right? So you can be an art teacher and then end up being a lawyer.
Yeah.
You can be someone who is on the radio and then shift into another area of communication. So there's so many different paths these days that I don't want anyone to ever feel stuck or I wish I could have done X and seeing that as a regret for not getting to where they want to be. So your 5-year plan to me should be a big picture view as to how you want to feel in 5 years, as opposed to where you want to be.
And just be prepared. And just be prepared to be asked that question, have an answer whether you like it or not. Damali Peterman, thank you so much for joining us. Always fascinating.
Thank you so much.
We're back after this.